You volunteer for sniper school after 2 years in the infantry. You're quiet, patient, and good at being alone. Most soldiers hate the waiting. You've always preferred it. The washout rate is 80%. Most guys can't handle the stillness, the 16-hour stretches lying in mud and brush waiting for a target that might never appear. They fidget. They lose focus. They start thinking about home, about food, about anything other than the crosshairs. You don't. You lie still and breathe and watch and wait, and 16 hours feels like nothing. Your instructor is a retired master sergeant with 63 confirmed kills and no patience for hesitation. He says, "The best snipers aren't the best shots. They're the ones who can turn off the part of their brain that makes them human. The empathy, the hesitation, the voice that says this person has a family. You need to be able to see a man through a scope and feel nothing but math, windage elevation, bullet drop, trigger pull. You pass every evaluation, top of your class. And on graduation day, instead of orders to a regular unit, 2 men in civilian clothes pull you into an office with no nameplate on the door. They represent a unit that doesn't exist on any organizational chart. The missions are classified. The operations are deniable. The pay is the same. You sign the paperwork. Your name disappears from the Army roster. Your family gets told you've been assigned to a training command in Virginia. Chapter 2. The First Shot. Your first deployment is Helmand Province, Afghanistan. A Taliban commander who's been coordinating ambushes on coalition convoys. Intelligence says he sleeps in a compound on the edge of a village. Your job is to make sure he doesn't wake up. You spend 14 hours in a hide site, buried under scrub brush on a hillside 1,100 meters from the compound. Your spotter lies beside you, calling wind readings every 20 minutes. The sun moves across the sky. Insects crawl across your face. You don't move. The commander emerges at dusk. You watch him through the scope eating dinner with his family, laughing with his children, pouring tea for his wife. He looks like anyone's father. He looks like yours. The shot is 1,100 meters. The bullet takes 1.4 seconds to arrive. You exhale, squeeze the trigger, and in that 1.4 seconds you feel absolutely nothing. The round hits center mass. He drops. His wife starts screaming, but you can't hear it from this distance. You only see her mouth open and her hands reach for something that's already gone. You radio confirmation and begin the long crawl back to the extraction point. 2 miles on your belly through rocky terrain, covered in dirt and sweat. He was a legitimate target. He killed coalition soldiers. The intelligence was solid. You did your job. You tell yourself this 3 times before you reach the vehicle. Your spotter says, "Nice shot." You say nothing. Back at base, they buy you a drink. You sleep 11 hours and dream about nothing. Chapter 3. The Reputation. 2 years and 40 confirmed kills later, you have a reputation in the community. The guy who never misses, never talks, never hesitates. Other operators tell stories about you in hushed voices at forward operating bases, half of them exaggerated, half of them not. They send you to places that don't appear on briefing slides. Villages in Yemen where Al-Qaeda commanders think they're safe. Rooftops in Mogadishu where warlords hold court in broad daylight. Hillsides in countries you're told to forget the moment you leave. You follow orders. You take shots. You exfiltrate. You do it again. Your targets are always classified as high value, which is military language for someone important enough to kill, but not important enough to capture alive. Each one comes with an intelligence packet, a folder full of surveillance photos, movement patterns, known associates. You read them the way a plumber reads a work order, professional distance. No curiosity about the person, only the problem. You start keeping a personal log, not names, just numbers and distances. Kill 23, 940 meters. Kill 31, 1,300 meters. Kill 37, 680 meters. Routine maintenance on a broken world. Every one of them was approved by someone with stars on their shoulders. Every one of them saved lives according to the briefings. Nobody asks you to verify this. The paperwork says justified, and the paperwork is always right. You stop calling home. Your mother leaves voicemails you listen to once and delete. Your brother sends emails you open, but don't answer. There's nothing to say to people who live in a world where pulling a trigger requires a reason. In your world, a trigger pull only requires authorization, and authorization always comes.
Chapter 4. The Gray List.
4 years in, your handler introduces a new category of target. He calls it the Gray List. Names that don't come through official channels, no Pentagon letterhead, no Joint Special Operations Command seal, just a photo, a GPS coordinate, and a 24-hour window. The intelligence packets get thinner. Your first Gray List target is a businessman leaving a mosque in a city you can't pronounce. No known affiliations in the file. No evidence of militant activity. Just a photograph and the word confirmed next to a threat assessment. You're not cleared to read. You take the shot from a rooftop 900 meters away. He falls between 2 parked cars. The next day you read about a car accident in that same city, a prominent local businessman killed in a single vehicle collision. You ask your handler who authorizes these operations. He looks at you the way a parent looks at a child who's asked where babies come from. The question itself, he says, is above your pay grade. You don't ask again. Your spotter starts drinking. Not socially, not casually, but the kind of drinking that smells like morning and looks like shaking hands. He requests a transfer after 6 months. You train his replacement in 3 weeks and never ask why the old one left. You already know. The money improves. An extra $15,000 per operation deposited into an account that doesn't connect to your name, your unit, or your country. You check the balance once a month. Where it comes from is someone else's problem.
Chapter 5. The Contractor.
7 years in, you rotate out of the military and into private contracting. Same work, triple the pay, none of the oversight. A defense company called Meridian Strategic Solutions recruits you through a former commanding officer who now drives a Porsche and lives in a gated community in McLean, Virginia. He tells you the private sector is where the real work happens. He's not wrong. Your clients are governments who can't afford fingerprints on an operation, corporations with problems in unstable regions, and occasionally individuals whose interests align with enough money to make questions disappear. You operate in North Africa, Southeast Asia, and parts of Eastern Europe where the rule of law is a rumor, someone heard once and forgot. The targets change.
They stop being militants with AK-47s and start being businessmen in linen suits.
Journalists who published the wrong article. Politicians who backed the wrong side of a resource deal. Union organizers in countries where organized labor threatens a mining contract worth more than the national budget. Each one comes with a file. Each file comes with a justification. Each justification is thinner than the last. You tell yourself the world runs on violence whether you participate or not. Governments topple. People disappear. Markets adjust. You're just the mechanism, a tool with a pulse, and tools don't have opinions about what they're used for. Tools don't lie awake at 3 a.m. doing math that has nothing to do with ballistics. At least they're not supposed to.
Chapter 6. The Civilian.
The job that changes everything is in Istanbul. A woman, 34, a human rights lawyer who's been making noise about a lithium mining operation in eastern Turkey. Forced relocations. Contaminated water, villages emptied at gunpoint so foreign companies can dig holes in the ground. She's filed complaints with the UN. She's talked to the press. She's becoming a problem. You read the file twice because you're waiting for the part where she's a threat to national security. It never comes. She's a threat to a contract worth $2 billion. And that, apparently, is enough. You set up on a rooftop 800 meters from her office and watch her through the scope for 3 days. She works late, eats lunch alone at her desk, usually soup from a place on the corner, calls her mother every evening at 7. She has a photo of a dog on her windowsill and a stack of legal briefs that never seems to get smaller. You take the shot on a Tuesday morning while she's carrying coffee and a pile of folders across the street. The round hits her below the left ear. She drops. The folders scatter across the pavement. You pack your rifle and leave the rooftop, and your hands are shaking for the first time in your career. You collect your $200,000 and fly to Bangkok and sit in a hotel room for 6 days not sleeping.
Chapter 7. The loose end.
Someone is investigating the Istanbul job, a French journalist who's been connecting dots across 2 continents, linking 3 of your operations through shell companies and flight records. He's good, methodical, the kind of reporter who doesn't publish until the evidence is airtight. Your handler says the journalist is becoming a problem. You understand what that means. But killing journalists creates more journalists. You tell him this. He tells you to let him worry about the strategy. Then you learn about your former spotter, the one who started drinking, the one who requested the transfer. He's been talking to an investigator at the ICC in The Hague. Names, dates, coordinates, everything he saw. Everything he helped you do, he kept his own log. It turns out, not just numbers and distances, names. Then the order comes. A quiet street in Lisbon where your spotter lives under a new name, tending a garden and attending AA meetings and trying to become the kind of person who sleeps through the night. They're asking you to kill the man who used to watch your back while you slept in the field. The man who counted your breathing to make sure you were still alive during 20-hour hide site rotations. You fly to Lisbon. You sit in a café across from his apartment for 2 days and watch him through the window the way you've watched dozens of targets. But the rifle stays in the bag. Not because you feel guilty. Because if the ICC gets your spotter's testimony, they get you too. And a dead witness with your name in his notes is worse than a live one you can control. You make a phone call, not to Meridian, to a man in Marseille who sells new identities out of a basement for $50,000 cash. You buy too. You warn your spotter not out of loyalty, but because his survival is now tied to yours. He understands the arrangement. He always was good at calculating odds.
Chapter 8. The Scope.
You disappear the way you were trained to, quietly, completely. You close the accounts. Destroy the phones, abandon the apartment in Dubai that Meridian was paying for. You leave nothing behind except a gap in their roster and a handler with questions he'll never get answered. You're 38 years old. You have $3 million in cash buried across 4 countries and a skill set that only works in one profession. You settle in a coastal town in a country you'll never name. A place where the fishermen don't ask questions and the rent is paid in cash 6 months at a time. You live small. You live quiet. You watch the water. Some nights you still calculate windage and elevation on objects in the distance. A lighthouse, 2,400 meters. A church steeple, 1,600. A fishing boat rocking at anchor, 900. The math is the only part of you that still works the way it was designed to. The rest of you is something you don't recognize, something between retired and hiding, between free and waiting. You read about a drone strike in Yemen or a mysterious death in Eastern Europe, and you wonder if it's someone you trained, someone still in, someone who hasn't reached their Istanbul yet, someone who still thinks they're a tool with no opinions. Somewhere right now, a kid with steady hands and dead calm nerves is passing sniper school at the top of his class, and a man in civilian clothes with no nameplate on his door is watching the scores and making a phone call.